Welcome back, viewers, to the latest researches and news. Currently, we have latest updates that we will share with you in this video. Firstly, about the Tigray government has formally responded to this morning's drone strikes in Merewa, Raya Alamata district. Secondly, about reports are reaching us that the Tigray Defense Forces may be in possession of Iranian Zeuzal long-range artillery rockets weapons with a maximum range of 200 kilometers. And in last, about Rapid Support Forces fighters are reportedly being airlifted from Asosa Airport to Harar Meda Air Base inside Ethiopia. Viewers, the Tigray regional government, the administration under Debretsion Gebremichael, has issued a formal official statement responding to the drone strikes that took place this morning at approximately 8 in the morning in the village of Merewa, Raya Alamata district in Southern Tigray. The statement's key points are these. The Ethiopian federal government has been massing military forces around Tigray and conducting drone surveillance and repeated strikes. Today's strikes, the statement says, caused human casualties and material damage in Merewa. The Tigray government describes the strikes as unprovoked. It states that it had already warned in previous communications that following the federal government's losses at the Shirena front, the regime was preparing a southern front offensive. Those warnings, the statement says, have now been confirmed. The Tigray government describes the strikes as a grave escalation and warns that they risk triggering a wider conflict with potentially devastating consequences for the entire Horn of Africa. That is the official position of the Tigray government on today's events. The Ethiopian federal government has not issued a corresponding official statement on the strikes. Viewers, multiple sources have reported that the Tigray Defense Forces is in possession of Iranian manufactured Zeuzal family long-range artillery rockets. We are actively working to connect with ground sources for confirmation. This report has not yet been independently verified, but the number of sources raising it and the consistency of the claim make it something we need to put in front of you. Viewers, the Zeuzal, which means earthquake in Persian, is a family of Iranian manufactured and guided artillery rockets. The maximum operational range of Zeuzal type rockets is reported at up to 200 kilometers. Let us put that number in geographic context. Addis Ababa, the Ethiopian capital, is approximately 700 kilometers from the Tigray region's southern border. So a Zeuzal rocket launched from southern Tigray would not reach Addis Ababa. But 200 kilometers of range means something very significant in the context of this conflict. From Raya Alamata in southern Tigray, 200 kilometers southward, covers virtually all of North Wollo zone. It covers Waldia. It covers Kobo. It covers the entire A2 highway corridor that the Ethiopian National Defense Force has been concentrating its defenses on. It covers Desi. These are the exact urban centers and supply routes where the Ethiopian National Defense Force has been withdrawing from the countryside to protect. If the Tigray Defense Forces has operational Zeuzal rockets positioned in southern Tigray, any Ethiopian National Defense Force position, supply depot, fuel storage, or command facility within 200 kilometers of that launch point is potentially within range of a strike. This would also fundamentally change the threat picture for Ethiopian National Defense Force air bases and logistics facilities in the region. The Ethiopian Air Force uses air bases to conduct its drone and aircraft operations. Zeuzal rockets capable of reaching those bases would impose a significant constraint on the Ethiopian National Defense Force's ability to conduct sustained air operations from fixed installations. Viewers, Iranian manufactured weapons reaching the Tigray Defense Forces follows the same supply chain logic we analyzed when covering the Iranian Farak 80 IMNI rockets that were previously documented. Tigray does not have direct trade relationships with Iran, but the Semido Alliance, and specifically the network of relationships that run through Eritrea and Sudan, provides the channels through which such weapons can be procured and moved. We repeat clearly, this is an unverified report at this stage. We are working to confirm it. But if the Tigray Defense Forces has Iranian Zewzal rockets with a 200-kilometer range, this is not a small addition to their arsenal. This is a strategic capability that changes the equation of this conflict. We will update you immediately when we have confirmation or denial from sources on the ground. And now to a development that connects several threads we have been tracking in previous reports. Reports have emerged that Rapid Support Forces, fighters the Sudanese paramilitary group that is at war with Sudan's official Sudanese armed forces, are being airlifted from Asosa Airport in Ethiopia's Benishangul Gumuz region to Hara Meda Air Base near the city of Harar in eastern Ethiopia. Tigray sources are claiming that this airlift is being conducted by the Ethiopian National Defense Force's own air transport assets. The Ethiopian National Defense Force and the Ethiopian federal government have not issued any official statement confirming or denying this. Let us explain each element of this, because it connects to previous reporting in important ways. We have reported previously on renewed and suspicious military activity at the Ethiopian National Defense Forces major base near Asosa. Satellite imagery confirmed increased vehicle and equipment movement at that base in the period following the Rapid Support Forces setback at Kurmuk when Sudanese armed forces recaptured the border town. We also reported that a flight was tracked from Minsk, Belarus, an arms supply chain country, landing at Asosa Airport. Now we have additional detail about a source's role that fills in the picture significantly. Reports state that before the Kurmuk takeover by Sudanese armed forces, before Sudan's military retook, that strategic border town, trained Rapid Support Forces, fighters, and supplies were being flown across the border to Yabus. Yabus is a location on the Sudan side of the Ethiopia-Sudan border. It has a dead airstrip, a basic runway, that is nonetheless capable of accommodating a Lockheed C-130 military transport aircraft. The aircraft reported to have been making these crossings was a C-130 belonging to the Ethiopian Air Force, suspiciously stationed at Asosa Airport during this period. A C-130 is one of the most widely used military transport aircraft in the world, capable of carrying troops, vehicles, cargo, and supplies over significant distances to austere landing strips. A C-130 flying from Asosa to a dead strip at Yabus would be a short-range hop well within the aircraft's capabilities. This means if these reports are accurate, that the Ethiopian National Defense Force was using its own military transport aircraft to move trained Rapid Support Forces fighters and supplies from Ethiopian territory into Sudan's Blue Nile area before the Kurmuk front collapsed. This is what previously allowed the Rapid Support Forces to sustain its operations in that area, and this is what the Tigray People's Liberation Front has alleged when it claimed the Rapid Support Forces fought alongside the Ethiopian National Defense Force at the Sharena front. The current airlift Asosa to Hara Meda, now the reports describe a new movement, Rapid Support Forces fighters being airlifted from Asosa to Hara Meda Air Base. Hara Meda is a major Ethiopian Air Force and a military aviation installation located near Addis Ababa. It is one of the most important air bases in Ethiopia. Why would Rapid Support Forces fighters be moved to Hara Meda? There are two possible explanations. First, the Ethiopian National Defense Force is repositioning Rapid Support Forces fighters deeper into Ethiopia, away from the Sudan border zone, where the Komuk front collapsed, to protect them from Sudanese armed forces pressure and to potentially deploy them on different fronts inside Ethiopia. Second, Amhara Tigray may be used as a staging or transit point from which these fighters could be deployed elsewhere, or where they could receive training, equipment, and preparation for future operations. Either way, the use of Ethiopian National Defense Force air transport assets to move Rapid Support Forces fighters between Ethiopian military installations is, if confirmed, a significant admission of the operational relationship between the Ethiopian federal government and the Rapid Support Forces. It would be direct material support, not just tacit tolerance for a Sudanese paramilitary force that Sudan's official government has designated as an enemy. No official confirmation exists. The Ethiopian National Defense Force has not spoken about this, but the tracking of aircraft movements, the history of Asosa Airport's role in previous Rapid Support Forces logistics, and the consistency of these reports across multiple sources gives them credibility that we cannot ignore. 3 updates, each one adding a significant new layer to this conflict. The Tigray government has formally confirmed the August 10th drone strikes in Murewa, describing them as unprovoked, grave escalation and a risk of wider regional war. Reports that the Tigray Defense Forces may have Iranian Zewzal rockets with a 200-kilometer range are unconfirmed but being actively investigated. If true, this gives the Tigray Defense Forces the ability to strike Ethiopian National Defense Force positions across all of North Wollo, including Woldia, Kobo, Desi, and the entire A2 highway defensive line. And Rapid Support Forces fighters are reportedly being airlifted from Asosa Airport to Amhara Tigray by the Ethiopian National Defense Forces. On air transport, with historical reporting confirming that Asosa was previously used to move Rapid Support Forces fighters and supplies into Sudan's Blue Nile region before the Komuk collapse. The war is escalating. The weapons on both sides are more sophisticated than anticipated, and the regional entanglements, Sudan, Eritrea, Iran, the Rapid Support Forces are deepening by the day. We will keep reporting every development as it is confirmed. Like, share and subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss an update.